So, here today with lovely Hannah. I've dragged her out after A-levels with her boyfriend Jake, who's videographer. But no, following on from what Jake and I spoke about yesterday in regards to whether or not students go to university, I have quite a different outlook on how people should approach the decision of whether or not they go to university. And what I'm hoping to get across, and I want to help educate people and possibly help people make a choice where they've probably been drilled into them through school that there is only one option, right? You either go to university or you're a failure. Like, that's kind of, right, okay, so straight after your A-levels, they're like, right, which university are you going to? What are you going to do? Even if you have no idea, right? And there's so many options, and in my opinion, arguably far better options for the majority of people is not to go to university. I know that's a controversial thing, like we said, but that's why I was going to talk to Hannah today, because you've just finished your A-levels, you don't know what you're doing, you applied to university, you've decided to take a gap year, and I can hopefully give some different ways of possibly thinking about what you could possibly do now, or at least think about how you might approach going forward. So let me ask you, why was it that you decided not to go to university now? Like, what's the decision to say, right? Actually, no. What made you want to go to university in the first place initially?
Just because it's a safe sort of.
Who told you to say?
Option. Teachers and like parents and stuff.
Yeah.
It was more, the teachers and parents, sort of your parents pushing you to go.
Yeah.
And saying that is your only option, especially in college. You were sort of pushed to go as soon as you sort of.
So there was never any mention of potentially doing anything outside of.
No, and it was really sort of.
It was just assumed that was where you.
Even if people were like, no, I don't want to apply, I don't want to do an application. They were sort of very like, oh, like why? Like you should go to university. Like what? It was very much like quite looked down upon if you didn't go. So you're sort of so pushed to go that you apply without really thinking about your options, and suddenly you're sort of like, wow, like I don't really know what I'm doing.
Massive. That's for me. It's a massive issue. So it's something that needs to be really addressed. So now you're at this position. You've decided to forego university for at least a year.
Yeah.
What is it that you? What was it that made you decide that, okay, I need to have a year out?
Just to think about things, like reconsider options, research different types of things I could do. Also, like have like a mental break, because A-levels are so stressful. I feel like you definitely need that year to just reevaluate, I think.
Okay, so from my point of view, the first thing I would ask anyone, and everyone that should ask themselves this as well, before deciding whether or not you're going to go to university, you need to really define what your goals are in life. Okay, you need to. That's so important, and the more specific you can be about those goals, the better. So you need to think about, what lifestyle do I want when I'm 30? Do I want kids? What kind of car would I want to drive? What kind of career would I want? Would I want to run my own business? And then be very specific about which business that would be, what car I'd want to drive, what kind of house I'd live in, where in the country would that be? Because we can start building a picture of, and unfortunately it comes down to money, the financial requirement that would take you to live that lifestyle. Now, would you say you're a materialistic person or not? Like, do you have like a high maintenance lifestyle?
Probably not really.
Okay, so you would say that you'd be quite happy with quote unquote average?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, so I'd go straight into this. So this would be something that's quite shocking for people. The average lifestyle now, so someone, let's say for example, you had 2 kids, average family, with relatively nice cars, nothing, like not a banger, but nothing like a supercar, and just a general way of living without worrying about money too much. The average you would need to earn to have that kind of lifestyle in the UK without being ridden with debt and other stuff is about 80 to 100 grand a year. So taking that into account, you then need to really sit down and think about, okay, if that needs to be something in my life and I really want to have those things, now, before you decide whether or not you're going to go to university, it needs to be something that is properly thought about. So, coming back to you, what kind of ideas have you got in terms of jobs and whatever else?
I really don't know.
So you literally have no idea?
Well, no, I feel like I'd quite like a job, but I just don't know. I don't really know if I want to go like money or like doing my own sort of thing with like earning money, like not have a boss, like just sort of do my own thing, or whether I want to just go for like a job that's quite safe, like something like quite a caring job, like teaching or like a nurse or like social work or something like that. But then I don't want to just be stuck in a job where it's like I might do it for a bit and then really hate it, and then what?
So I think obviously you sound very confused as to what you're going to do, which majority of people, I mean, I was very fortunate. I always knew that I was going to run my, well, I didn't actually, I thought I was going to be in finance, but I decided about 16 that wasn't for me and I was going to run my own business. So even though I went to university, so I have been to university, so I'm not just saying it from experience as well, I kind of have a little bit of experience in that. Once you have those goals of your lifestyle and potential career, I mean, you have to mix the two. The lifestyle you want and also the kind of job that you think will make you happiest. You have to get those down on paper, write them out. Because then from there you can reverse engineer how to get there, right? And what school would have you believe is that there's only one route, that's going to university. In my opinion, that's, for 99% of people, that's probably one of the most costly and probably the worst, least effective ways of actually getting to that life that you want to live. Now, like I said, it really all becomes the person dependent, and I'm not telling anyone to do something and not go to university. It really depends on that approach. So for example, there's caveats to this. If you wanted to be a medical doctor, you wanted to be a civil engineer, you wanted to be an accountant or whatever, you have to go to university, right? So there's no getting around it. You have to go to university, you have to pay the fees. If that's what you want to do as a career, you have to go. For everyone else, this is where it kind of becomes, you have to do this, what I call opportunity cost weighing, where you go, okay, here's what I want, here's my clearly defined goals. If I go to university and try and get this job, will it cover that? So, bearing in mind when you go to university, you've got roughly now, I mean, it's astronomical debts now.
Yeah,
student loans are ridiculous. So the average debt I would imagine is probably somewhere between 35 to 50 grand, depending on how many years you go, how much you borrow. And that comes with a really hefty interest rate now, so which also will increase the more you earn. So they'll actually punish you and make you charge you more if you earn, you're a higher earner when you come out of university. So that'll take more of your income basically, it's basically taxing you. So if you call it a 50 grand loan to go to university for maybe 3 or 4 years, you're looking at, so yeah, the direct cost would be the loan, and then an indirect cost is your time. So what else could you be doing in those 3 to 4 years that could possibly be increasing your chances of hitting those goals? Now, for the majority of jobs, the stuff you learn at university will actually have no real world relevance at all in the job world. Like for example, I did economics. If I want to work in finance, pretty much 90% of everything I learn, that might be quite general, maybe 95% of everything I learn would have absolutely no relevance. So I have to look at, okay, ask yourself this, if I was to go and say to you, oh, there's this really cool course, right, and it's going to teach you some stuff which might help you get a job, but it's going to cost you 50 grand, it's going to take you 4 years, and it wasn't labelled a degree, you'd want to know exactly what the hell you're getting for your money. But you've just said to me, you've just kind of like gone, oh, I'm just going to sign up for a degree because I've been told, even though it's going to cost you 4 years of your life and 50 grand, and you don't really know what value you're going to get from it. You're not necessarily going to get a job. In fact, you're probably less likely to get a job now than someone, I would say, who actually spends 4 years developing themselves within a job role. So, another thing to think about as well, without trying to scare and frighten you, is like also that if you're fixed into a degree, you almost feel like you have to finish, because if you get 2 years in or 3 years in and you decide it's not for you, unlike if you're working in a real life job where you're actually accruing experience, even if you dropped out, you've accrued 2 years of experience which can be applied to another, in that same industry or maybe another job. That can go on your CV. You can't put on your CV, 3 years of university which I then dropped out of. That doesn't. Also, the stuff you've learned, and like I said, because most of the degrees are completely irrelevant to real life stuff, you've lost 3 years of your life and a shitload of money that you paid, which you can't get back, and secondly, you can't get those 3 years back of your life. So I would urge anyone, if they don't have a goal that requires them to get a degree, have a look at those goals, and then think, right, okay, is there other options? So let's say, for example, you were going to try and get into real estate, something like that, yeah? Okay, that's a goal. There's a lot of people want to get into real estate. The best thing I would do is possibly, a good way to learn real estate is probably to work for an estate agent or something like that. I would say, okay, I will go and work, or offer to work, because a lot of people say, well, how do I get a job? How do I get this thing moving, right? Work for free.
Yeah.
Go and phone up a local estate agent, the highest performing one in your area, and say, look, I want to come in, I've just decided not to go to uni, I really want to develop my real estate skills because this is my goal. I'm willing to come and work for pro bono if you teach me what you know. Now, you're in a position where you think, oh Christ, well that's going to cost me a lot of money. You can get a second job, you can go flip burgers, you can get an office job or something that's going to pay you minimum wage, which will help cover you. You can stay at home and live with your mum, because I presume that's where you live now. Most people have that luxury. I know some don't, so they would have to probably earn more money to facilitate their lifestyle. But the majority of people in the West now probably can live with their parents over that period. Then, if you did that for a year, the knowledge you would learn and the experience you would gain would surpass, and you'd probably end up getting the job, and you'd probably get paid for it anyway, because I know I've done that with Jake. Jake came to work for me for free, and now he gets paid, and now he's going to earn more and more and more. Within 2 years he'll be earning more than anyone else, and his friends that are in university are in a load of debt. So in my opinion, there's the value there. Also, you've then got the ability to then, after that year, you can learn a lot about yourself. If you then decide to change, or that's not for you, you can then move into something else really easily, because you're not under contract, you haven't paid a load of money, you haven't got any pressure from parents or anything else to stay in university. You can then move. Like I said, if you're 2 years into a degree and you decide, oh, this isn't for me, you're really up shit creek. Like, you've lost everything. You've lost time, you've lost you've lost money, you've lost the potential to accrue more value in yourself and like personal improvement over that period. So before people start deciding whether or not university is a must for them, they just need to ask themselves these questions and really decide whether or not what the value they would get from university will actually get them to the lifestyle they want. And I think this is why a lot of people live miserable lives as well, because they actually don't end up getting to where they think they were going to get, right? So they think, oh yeah, I'm not a materialistic person, but they have in their mind, yeah, I probably want to have a nice house, whatever else. I'll be a teacher, right? Unfortunately, like we said earlier, the average income in the UK per person is 24 grand, roughly, give or take, depends what it is, about 24 grand a year. So if we said that the average non-materialistic lifestyle requires 80 to 100k a year, there's a 60 to 80k shortfall in your earnings. So you're never actually going to be happy. Plus, you're also going to be worse off because you're going to be paying a degree back. So that 24k is actually less because you're covering a student loan. So, I mean, I know I've just spoken at you for a long time, but is there any questions you have about what I've just said to you, or have you got any kind of counter thoughts to that, or anything you think, well, what you said sounds a bit strange?
No, I think it's just the majority of people my age don't actually know.
What you said to me the other day was, if I don't go to university, I'm going to get a job that pays above £6, like 80 an hour, like a minimum wage job.
I just feel like there's no one really knows about alternatives.
So you were very business minded when you were in college. If you were to come out of college, right, and you not have any businesses, you just come out like anyone, and you were there now in hand, you've got a summer ahead of you, and then choice of university, you didn't have any businesses, but you wanted to get into what you do now. How would you go about it?
Like I said, so let's say I was going to be a marketer, so I want to be a marketer. I would reach out to marketers. I would intern for them for free. I would ask my mum politely if I could stay at home and live rent free. Because like I said, the majority of people have that luxury. I know you do, and I know a lot of people do. We're very fortunate, very grateful for that. That's just winning genetic lottery, right? So we have that option. And even if you don't, you can get a fucking side job, you can work nights. You have to graft, right? It's not to say that it's going to be easy. It's not, right? Nothing worth having comes easy. But you can then go and work for a marketer, ask to work for free. You can say, after 3 or 4 months, if I'm adding value to you, we can maybe talk about you potentially paying me. But the personal development you accrue over that period would give you enough knowledge. After a year or two, you'd be able to start your own business. You would be able to you'd have the knowledge to do it. And the thing is, with the knowledge to do it, right, if you went to, right, let's say you went to your mum or like, right, I'm going to start up a marketing business, can I borrow some money, or a friend or family or whatever, what experience do you have, Hannah? None. Right, so, oh, okay, probably not going to lend you any money. Well, so you come out of university and you said, I want to start a marketing company for yourself. Oh, I've been working for Elliott Wise for the last 3 years. We've done work for 30 different clients and we've accrued over $500,000 in revenue for them. Yeah, I'll lend you the money to start up your business because you've already got a CV, a business strategy, a portfolio, you know what you're talking about. And then if you wanted to actually try and start your business, investors like me would be far more inclined to kind of reach out to you. So you've added so much value to yourself. All universities is a signal. So basically, for the majority of degrees, it's a signal to an employer that you are of an intelligence level capable enough to do the job. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go be a stockbroker. If I got my 2-1 in economics, they'd go, okay, yeah, you're clearly bright enough to do the job. Now we have to train you. But if you went from, let's say you dropped out of school at 16 and you worked in a finance firm for free for a few years and you accrued all this information, and then you started making trades or whatever else, if you pitched that person up against me in a job interview, they'd beat me every time. And then if you were worried about making that £6.80 an hour, that person that just stole that job from you will be getting the highest paid jobs, or they'll be able to start their own business and the sky's the limit with money. You can live the lifestyle you want. You can get those goals that you've laid out.
Yeah, I think you've got to have the initial. I mean, a lot of people don't. Yeah, you have the motivation. I think, like you do.
You got to have motivation, but you still got to have motivation to go to university, right? You still got to study. You still got to pass exams. There's no point going to university and getting like a 2-2 or a third.
Yeah, no, it is.
No, you mean it's
it's a different type of motivation.
Yeah, I think
though.
university's like.
It's very safe. Well, no, you think it's safe. It's not. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but the university is sort of told, I guess, like what to do and when the assignments need to be in.
For a due date.
Yeah, but for what?
Yeah, but
why are you doing it?
I know.
Are you doing it just because you've been told to do it? Like, would you walk off a cliff? If someone told you to do it, the teacher go, oh yeah, go walk off that cliff and die.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, if you're trying to start,
you do things without even questioning it. That's the problem. Like, we've been so brainwashed into thinking that that's what we should be doing. No one's asked the question like, why? Why am I paying 50 grand? What am I getting for my 50 grand? I bet you if you asked any of your friends, what am I actually getting value-wise for my 50 grand, no one could tell you. That's not a small amount of money. That's 50 grand plus interest, by the way. What are you getting for your money? Like in any business deal that I'd go into or any investment, if I'm paying for something to improve myself or buy something for my company, I want to know exactly what it is that I'm getting. Now, if that value if you work out that value for you is worth it, then by all means go and do it. I'm not telling you not to, but you have to really actually work it out. Don't just take it for granted that that's what you should do. There's so many more options out there, and in my opinion, better options for most people.
Did you want to use Amy as an example?
So yeah, here's a good example. One of my best friends, he's a gifted academic. I went to university with him. I met him at university, and he was one of these extremely bright kids from day one. Like he was smashing. I mean, he was doing at secondary school international math quizzes against like the world, basically. He was like top of the top, and he had academia so easy. He said he had teachers blowing smoke up his arse. He was smarter than all the teachers. He was very mathematical, and he said to me at university, he's like, mate, I've got it made. He was like, he had in his head and he'd been told that if he carries on studying like he is and he keeps getting the grades he's going to get, life is going to be sweet, like awesome. And what that did to him is it completely killed his motivation to ever look into anything else or even question anything else, because in his head he thought he was going to be like drafted like you would do in America. If you were like an up and coming baseball star, you'd have people coming around to his house knocking on the door trying to offer him jobs. Like he thought he was going to have it absolutely. He finished his degree with a first. He was like one of the top in the year, and he was like, right, now what? He was in the same boat as everybody else. So he then started having to apply for graduate schemes and everything else, and do you know what? He didn't get the first few jobs that he applied for, and I think it really struck home, and he actually got quite depressed about it, because he told me, he now works for Deloitte, which is one of the top 4 accounting firms, but he works like a slave. He's been working there for a fair few years, and he's on about 50 grand a year, which for me is not a lot. I can live off that. I mean, I have a very luxurious lifestyle. I managed to get myself. I earn a lot more than that, right? And I didn't I didn't have to go to a top accounting firm to do that. And the stuff that I've done hasn't been attributed to my degree. So he got really bitter at the education system because he was always led to believe that by being some mad academic, life would come easy. But you know what? It doesn't. You still have to add the value outside of your academia, even if you go to university, to be able to get those jobs. So he's a very good example of someone that I would think about. If you're very academic, you think, oh, Elliot's chatting crap, I've smashed my exams. Yeah, but what those exams really mean in the eyes of actually getting employment or starting your own business? Nilch. I hate to say it. So, once again, we go back to all these people that are, I'm sorry if you're already halfway through your degree, but all these people that are actually trying to consider whether or not they are going to go to university, they just need to weigh this stuff up. And look, I'm not saying don't go to university, I'm not bashing university, although I do think it's a bit archaic and the stuff you learn. If they actually were teaching you stuff that was really real world applicable, if you wanted to be in business and they were teaching you how to set up a business, they told you how to build a limited company, told you how to leverage debt, how to handle employees, how to manage, great, go for it. Like, I would be all for it. But the stuff they're teaching, unfortunately, this doesn't cut it. It doesn't have any intrinsic value. So you're paying for something, you're paying for a signal which you hope, you're praying that that signal is going to be loud enough or bright enough for someone to then employ you after to get the job that you hopefully will pay you enough to live that kind of humble lifestyle you were talking about, which isn't so humble, as it turns out. And the thing is, people say, oh, I want to get a degree to get a backup. But backup for what? Like, if you have no value outside of your degree, what do you have to offer to any other firm? If Jake's been, let's say Jake, you went to university and Jake didn't, right? He worked for me and then he went to go work for someone else, whatever else. He's actually got real life experience. So if you didn't get a job from your degree and then you was like, right, okay, I need to go somewhere else, what do you have to offer them? He's got years of experience. Just food for thought.
Interesting.
Any other comments? Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I know. Well, so say you come away from this now and you're like, okay, I'd like to do something for myself. And you'd be talking about.
The thing is, a lot of people like my age, if they want to set up a business, they have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a massive.
And also, if obviously you've got the internet to look at how to do it, you can ask people who work for them for free, whatever. But still, like, you have to be like business inclined if you want to do like set up your own business.
Not necessarily. How much would you pay to go to university?
What do you mean?
Well, it cost you 50 grand, right?
Yeah, 50 grand.
So, how much do you think it would cost someone, or cost you, if you said, right, okay, Elliot, if I pay you for your time, can you show me how to set up my company? Can you hold my hand? I'd do it for a fraction of that. There'd be a lot of people out there that will help you hold your hand, right? Who've done it a million times over.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at the cost of that. Okay, you might not know what you're talking about. You can hire an accountant. They'll tell you exactly how to do it. That's cheap, relatively speaking, to a degree. It's not hard. People are scared because you think you don't know, but there's so much stuff out there, and it's so much relatively cheaper than a degree.
Yeah. With the money though, where would that money, unless you worked like on minimum wage for like so long in a restaurant or something?
Yeah.
Is that you're saying how you pay?
Yeah.
How
So
you pay for that?
Yeah. If you
by
need,
working.
you'd have to work. So basically, what I would do is bring my lifestyle down to a point at which my expenses are at a minimum.
Yeah.
Then I'd earn what I can, and then invest that. If you needed some startup capital, into yourself.
Yeah.
Either buy a book on how to do it. You could. Like I said, it's all on the internet anyway.
Yeah.
If you actually dedicated your time to doing it, or you can pay someone a small fee to tell you how to do it. I mean, an accountant will set up a limited company for you. They decide to be your accountant for free. Costs you about 15 quid to register a company online. Right, you can do the accounts yourself if you actually want to learn it. Like, if you're really strapped for cash, you can do it all yourself. There's YouTube videos that explain you how to do it. I'm actually going to do some YouTube videos on how to set up companies. So there's not just me that's done that, there'll be loads of people. And you know what, just try it. You'll be very surprised at how easy it is compared to the degree that you thought you were going to try and do.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you're putting in time to a degree if you move that time over.
Look, degrees aren't easy, man. Like,
something,
I can advocate that. I did economics, right? The exams weren't easy. I had to spend so much time and effort revising. It was very hard, way harder than anything I've ever had to do in business. The stuff I've learned in business is like, I pick it up like that. I had to really study for my degree. So if I had the ability to do that, then you definitely have the ability. If you got into university, you definitely have the ability to run your own business.
So what if, this isn't necessarily me, what if somebody else didn't want to do business and they didn't want to go to university?
Right, so I said,
what's the option
if
then?
they don't know what they want to do, take some time. It's a damn sight cheaper. Like say, live at home with your mum, work for free. Like I say, keep your expenses at the minimum. If you need to get a second job to pay, like pocket money, and discover yourself. I would take a year out, like you at the moment, and do some different things, try some different things until you know those goals. You have no right doing anything. All you need to do is keep trying to find out what makes you happy, what makes you tick, what you really want to do. Use that period, because you are relatively young, you have that luxury to be able to go, okay, I'll take a year or two to discover myself. Because once you actually have a set goal, things move very quickly in the right direction. When you're running around like a headless chicken, not knowing where you're going, you'll go nowhere for a long period of time. And you'll end up going in places and investing time and money in things that you really don't want. So actually, like, prepare to fail or fail to prepare. Fail to prepare or prepare to fail. So if you don't prepare and you don't have those goals in place and you just go at something and pay a load of money for it and put a load of time into it, the likelihood is you're going to end up pretty bad off. So what I would do is take that year, discover yourself, earn what you can to get by, live quite frivolously, don't spend a lot of money, but just try and do some things and get out there and experience and network, and you will make that your mission. Make finding what you want to do your mission, and then once you know exactly what you want to do, you then can strategize a plan to get there. And don't just think, oh, degree. Speak to the people that are at the top of the game that have been doing it and ask them how they got there. Who would they employ? Once you're working in those firms, you can see how they're employing. You'll learn quite quickly that most of them won't be coming out with a degree. They'll be kind for certain experience, have done certain things, right? But because you've worked for them, you'll see what experience is required. Degree won't teach you that. I don't know. Like, let's say for example you wanted to be a gardener, like a landscape gardener for like high-end properties. I have no exact idea what experience they'd want you to have to do that. If you went to work for one, within a week you'd know. And then you could decide whether or not you enjoyed it. And then if you want to, you can go and pursue that experience.
Well, would they employ you for free?
Probably. I mean, like, I can't talk for your personality and how you are as a person, but you're a damn sight more likely to get the job than if you just got a degree and you didn't have any experience. So that's what I'm saying. Having a degree doesn't suddenly give you a magic personality transplant and make you suddenly sociable and very good at interviews and then have all this experience. It doesn't do that for you. That's still you, that still has to come from you. Yeah. But if you show willing and you actually said, oh, I'll go work for you for free, they're damn sight more likely to hire you. I mean, I know I would. I'm a businessman and I know all the business owners that I know would. That for me would take me aback. Someone's offered to work for me for free. I actually want to employ you more because that attitude itself. It speaks like bounds.
Yeah, I mean, we work in the gym social skills and that. Let's pennies. But then you look at it from outside. Actually, I speak to different people all the time.
But if you're like motivated and your work ethic's high enough to sort of complete A levels, that in itself.
Yeah, I always said to Hannah, you worked very hard for A levels. If you put that
into something else.
Of course.
You have to have work ethic.
Look, that's what I said. If you actually had the ability to get into a degree, you likely have the drive and ability to do anything outside of that. And I'm not just saying start your own business. I'm just saying even working for another firm. You'd be working for after 4 years at university anyway.
Yeah, he's had it before.
You can go around and looking at, like, see product and you go around and see what other people are doing.
But what I would say, anyone that watches this that has any kind of reservations or disagrees with what I say, please message in because I'd love to hear. Because I can't see any argument against what I'm saying really. Because like I said, I'm not telling you not to go to university. I just want people to think more outside the box. And if they have any kind of doubts or reservations still after having heard this, or don't know how to maybe possibly approach it, then please message and I'll see if I can kind of help you think. Like I said, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just trying to give you some food for thought. And just said there isn't just one option. There's multiple ways you can skin a cat. So, Jake is just started working at Evolution Webs a couple of months ago.
Beginning of the
year. Christ, it goes quick.
That's quick.
And he started working for me when he decided he wasn't going to uni. So, and we've kind of been talking a lot recently because A levels have just finished or just finishing for people,
and being a bit to them.
and we got on to the topic of should you go to university or should you continue to further education that you have to pay for yourself, obviously outside of the legal requirements in the UK, which is up to 18. You have to go to sixth form now, I believe, legally. You didn't used to, when I finished when I finished school, you didn't have to go to sixth form. But I think now it's 18 is the legal requirement, and we were discussing whether or not it's a good idea to go to university, because I know Jake's girlfriend Hannah, she's in a bit of a dilemma. Hopefully we're going to talk to her tomorrow actually about what she's going to do, and we'll get her opinion on it. But
a lot of people in that situation.
I have quite firm beliefs which are probably a bit controversial, which kind of go against the grain of what we're taught in schools and what we're told by the government is the way to do things. And in my opinion, it's the reason I've got what I've got and where I am now. And I just wanted to cover a few things, and I want to more than it, I'm not bashing the education system, but what I really want to get out of this channel is I want people to start thinking outside of the box, start thinking outside of what we're programmed to think, in terms of we need to go to university, we need to buy a house, we need to do these. You drilled this stuff into you, but that's not necessarily the case. It could be for you, but it's not necessarily the best option. As a businessman or an economist, everything should be looked at as an opportunity cost, right? So what's the cost of me taking one route versus another route? So in the case of something really simple like, I don't know, what's the cost of me going on holiday versus working for a week? I mean, it's pretty obvious that if your goal is to earn more money, then working for a week will probably give you a better outcome in terms of your time spent. Or if you want to look at the actual physical cost, it's going to cost me to go on holiday versus not going to cost me to go anywhere if I stay at home. That's just, and the same thing should be looked at. Okay, what's the cost of me going to university versus potentially pursuing another route, like I spoke to Jake. So I first met Jake in the gym, and I actually was asking people around because I knew that I was going to be building my social media presence. I wanted to get everything videoed that I was doing because I had this vision. So I was looking for young, driven people, because I'm not bashing older people, but I wanted to find someone as driven as I was when I was 18, and I wanted to find someone that was not necessarily moulded yet by societal pressure and things like that, and someone that could be open to my way of thinking and could get behind what it is that I'm doing, because everyone that works for me, I want to all have the same kind of drive and ambition, or at least we think the same way, so we're all pulling in the same direction. And I mentioned to Jake and a few other guys in the gym that were kind of a bit younger, do you know anyone that possibly has done anything at college or interested? They don't need to have any degrees or anything like that, that was just interested, because I knew that it was going to take time and effort for me to help teach them. And I spoke to Jake, and Jake said, yeah, I'll have a little look. And then he came in the next day and was like, what do you need? And I was like, what do you need? What is it that you're looking for? And I didn't really know your backstory, which we'll go into in a little bit. But he was like, I'll let you tell the story in a minute, but you had chosen not to...
Yeah, well, I had nothing...
You finished your A-levels, you stopped your A-levels, and you said, right,
finished that, but
done.
didn't do them.
And what was your mindset at that point?
At that point, I was almost a bit like, look, there's a lot of pressures around it, so I was almost like looked down upon it. I felt like I was doing something wrong.
By not going to university?
By not finishing my A-levels, everyone was kind of like,
So you didn't finish your A-levels?
I didn't finish my A-levels, I would be doing them at this moment.
Right, okay.
Everyone my age right now is doing them.
So you dropped out after first year?
Just before first year finished.
Okay, done.
So that was done.
You decided it wasn't for you.
But then I was almost like in a promise to myself that I'm going to do something. I wouldn't stop until I kind of like...
So you knew you were going to
do something.
You knew that academia wasn't right for you?
I was, even to university, I was thinking ahead, I was like, look, this just isn't...
Not you?
Not me, at all.
Okay. You had more to
Not academic.
And what did your parents say?
My mum had always been like, look, you're pretty, like, university's probably not your thing. I've always been more on the sporty side rather than like academic. Like, I did my GCSEs and stuff, I did all that, fine. Got past all those, and I did my A-levels, but A-levels almost like, I was like, still kind of like, oh, what kind of like, what do I want to do? Like, still like no direction. Got into them, I did a rugby academy, which was fine. Liked all the guys there, liked everything about it. Apart from, like, I was like, well, what am I going to do afterwards? Like, well, I didn't see what I was doing to be beneficial.
So you couldn't see any value in
not really,
pursuing that route?
Pursuing that was just not interesting for me. I was actually falling off, which is unlike me. I find I'm normally quite a motivated person, but I was falling off, I was falling behind, and there was like, getting to a point, because there was the rugby part of it, I was quite a lot of travelling, I couldn't drive at the time. I had to travel, obviously, to get a lift from my house to the train station, because I live in the middle of nowhere. Train station, walk, rugby gear. Rugby was falling off me as well, I didn't enjoy it as much as I used to, and that was the main part of college for me. And I think that just drove me down, like after months and months of that, it was just more like, I don't see myself doing this for another year.
No. So I remember we then had a chat in the gym, and you said to me, you didn't really know what you were doing, you didn't know how to start something up, and I think my advice to you at the time was, this was before we actually spoke about you potentially coming to work for Evolution Webs, and I said to you, find something that makes you happy, because ultimately, like, life is about being happy, right? There's no point going through this whole thing and not enjoying it. So I'll expand on this in a minute, but so find something that's happy, it makes you happy, but also something that you can add value to people. Like, it needs to be something that you can learn a skill from, but will also solve someone's problem, so you can actually make money. So, like, if I was to go back now, and especially now you've got higher student fees and stuff like that, I personally wouldn't go to uni again. If I went back now, given today's my student fees way cheaper.
So what you know now, if you went back
based on what I know now, I went back,
you wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it. And even if it was the same, knowing what I know now, I still wouldn't go.
That's really interesting.
And the reason I say that is because the education system, in my opinion, is completely archaic, right? It's not been changed for time, like a lot of time. And it's, the whole thing is designed to keep you thinking about going to get a career and get a job that ultimately is getting harder and harder and harder, because all the people I know that left university, and that was back 9 years ago, struggled really. It's very difficult to get a job. It's so competitive now, and the whole system is designed for, okay, you go get a career, you do something that, it doesn't necessarily have to like it, but you're going to get paid a wage, and that's kind of like your life over, right? Yeah. That's it done.
Retirement's the next goal.
But the issue being is, even if you just want a career, not coming out of university, having no experience, now is the prerequisite is just getting your degree. You almost need to have experience now, or a master's or a PhD, and it just gets further and further and further. So for me, and I did economics at university. Actually, one thing we did actually learn in that is that education is kind of a waste of time. And the reason I say that is the stuff you learn in most degrees, there's caveats to this, the stuff you learn is completely obsolete in actual real world, right? If you want to be a marketer and you go and study marketing at university, it's pretty much not going to cover anything you're actually going to use in real life. If you want to go and do English, history, a lot of these subjects, maths, you're not actually going to use the stuff you're learning, even economics, unless you probably go work for the government or use a really specific job role. You're not actually going to use it. All the guys I know went to work in London, in the city, as fund managers, stockbrokers, accountants. That being said, there is caveats to that. If you want to be a doctor or an engineer or an accountant, if you actually study accountancy, those skills will translate over into what you're actually doing in your job. So that actually help you get a job.
So the degree's needed.
It's needed. Yeah. You can't actually get those jobs you can't become a medical doctor without having a medicine degree. That's final. So if you're one of those people, you have to go to university. For everyone else, there's a few things you need to think about prior to actually deciding whether or not university is a good idea for you. That's firstly, do you really know what you want to do with your life? Because then you can then make that decision of whether or not your degree that you're going to get and the subject that you pick to do will actually contribute to you doing that thing. The amount of people I speak to who are like, I don't actually actually know what I want to do have no place going to get a degree, because the debt now is horrific. The interest rates are ridiculous, and the more you earn after the degree, the higher your interest rates go up.
I think university's still seen as almost like a mini safety net. Like, you come away from education like, actually, I still don't know what I want to do. Let's just go off. Like,
no, so that's one question you need to ask yourself. Secondly, what's the opportunity cost of getting a degree? So what else could I be doing? This comes back to Jake. So I said to Jake, in my opinion, videography, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, will be blowing up over the next 10 years. There's so many businesses not utilising video, and that's just one skill. There's tons of skills out there that there's going to be a crazy demand for it in the next 5-10 years, which is why we offer videography as a service for all of our clients, because we know how important it is. And I said to Jake, the opportunity cost of going to university is you've got the cost of your degree, and not only that, you're foregoing learning a skill that will potentially get you hired while you're still young. So you can start to learn through me, and I'll basically set you up, because here's another thing. Jake initially worked for me for free, like shock horror, right? Jake worked initially for free because he had the foresight to realise, Jesus, like, if Elliot's doing really, like, he's doing well, he's a successful guy, you can see I'm going places, I will pay for your equipment, I'll give you my time and effort, I will mentor you, I will teach you everything I know and make you as good as humanly possible, because that's worth it for me. And if we
turned down the opportunity, it would have been stupid.
Yeah, so what you also did as well is you kept your job on at the gym, because you were working at the gym behind the counter for pennies. Right?
Pennies.
Right? It's not big money. It's not like you're earning 50, 60k a year. Like, you just get, but enough for you to get by. You're still living with your parents, but you were like, if I can develop this skill and I can get to know Elliot and I can get in there, I'm actually going to do far better, because I won't have a student debt. I'm learning his skill. If you make me happy and you do well for me and add value to my business, the likelihood is I'm going to hire you and pay you going forward. And like, step forward 6 months, that's exactly what's now happening. Jake's now become highly valuable to me. He's worth money to me. He's making me money. So I'm paying him money. Not only that, he's now in a position where when we hire someone, he'll be above them. He'll be managing them. And that was the kind of opportunity cost that you weighed up and were like, this is no brainer. It wasn't even a cost,
because even when I was working for free, the value I was getting from being around you and people you know is insane. It's ridiculous.
But this is the thing, people don't see that. You and I come from a very entitled generation. We feel that we deserve to be paid. There's so much entitlement, right, in today's society, that the problem being is you don't deserve to be paid. Like, what gives you the right to go and walk into a 50k job? Like, what have you done with your life? No offense, but like,
no, exactly.
You have to earn it, right?
It's 100% true.
I didn't get the stuff where I am with. Like, it wasn't given to me. I wasn't born with a silver spoon on my arse. Like, I had to go and work for it, and people need to realise that. And you were like, right, okay, it's actually going to cost me my time, my effort, probably a bit of money as well, because I've got to use my fuel to go places, and I've got to have a second job just to get this value. But you're now in a position where in the next 2-3 years, you're going to be earning more than all of your people that went to university. You're going to have no debt and a skill that will carry you through, I think, for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least it will translate, you can evolve that over time.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that people need to really consider is, do you need to go
to university?
Is university really worth it?
At this current day and age, as important as it once was, because obviously before internet stuff as well, maybe like, a bit more necessary. There's so many opportunities now as well. Your phone's getting spammed.
Yeah, well, I wasn't looking at that. I was just looking at what we're talking about.
What else are you bringing up?
And there's another thing, actually. Another massive error, I think, in... Like, if you have any, like, queries or, like, you completely disagree with me, I'd love for you to comment in the comments below, because I'm not trying to bash anything, and if you have a good argument against what I'm trying to say, then please reach out to me, because I'm more than happy to get you on the channel, because I think I want to promote people to think laterally and think independently, and not force them to think in a certain way.
Which I think is what's happened. People, it's
happened since day one. Yeah. Like we've always controlled the populations. They want the population doing certain things, but
it's obvious, yeah.
Education is archaic, it's obsolete, it needs to change, and hopefully I can start being one. There's not just me talking about this stuff. There's a lot of big names bringing this up now, and I mean with the internet and everything else we've got going on, the way the world's changing, the stuff we're learning. I mean, I know more millionaires now that are social media influencers than I do people that are earning money from a degree. Like, we're not learning about that stuff in school. We're miles behind. So you really need to make a conscious decision and really think about that choice about whether or not university is for you. Really, really do. And something that something to really think about, the most precious thing we all have on this planet, which we cannot get back, is time. And I speak to a lot of young people, and something they say to me is, it's okay, I'm only 18. I've got years, right? I've got years to get... Why wait years? The world is becoming more competitive, right? Secondly, you've got the massive competitive advantage because you're younger than most people, obviously older than you, it's a given, but the fact that you're younger than them, you've got more time, which gives you a massive competitive advantage. I realised this when I was 13, that's when I set up my first business. I knew that I probably wasn't the most gifted mind. Even at 13, I was like, right, there's guys, even in my class at school, I was like, I'm not the smartest. I was definitely the most competitive and the most driven. And what I also realised was, if I can even get 3 years ahead of someone that's more gifted than me, that traction will send me miles ahead of them. So I had a few goals to set up 2 businesses before I left sixth form, which I did. I had an online lighting retailer, I had my web design and marketing company, which were doing well. I then knew that I wanted to get on the property ladder ASAP, because I knew that I wanted to end up doing buy-to-lets, real estate, all that kind of stuff, and I knew that I was going to buy a house, live in it, and then rent out the other rooms, which I did. So I had lodgers for a short period until I could afford enough money to buy my student lets and stuff like that. The point being here was, I realised that, and then by the time I was 21, I had my first house, right? So for my generation, I think the average age of first time buyer is like 38 or 40 now. In the southeast, it's even higher because it's much more expensive down here. Point being was, the fact that I started early, I wasn't more gifted, I didn't have parental networks, my daddy didn't know anyone, my mummy didn't know anyone, I didn't have any help. But what I did have was time, and I just ground away and I learned skills, I made loads of mistakes, and by the time these other people would start trying to do what I was doing, I was already about 8 years ahead. That in itself is a massive advantage, and now that's the same thing with a degree, right? Come out of college at 18 and you think, right, I'm going to do my degree, maybe a sandwich course might be 4 years, could be something else, could be 5 years, you might skip a year, you might take a gap year. Let's say it's 4 years until you start even looking for a job. And then you might even need a master's or a PhD to try and do whatever.
Too late.
If you went to someone and thought, right, I want to be, I don't know, a florist, okay? Let's say, for example, you want to be a florist. Go and find the best florist you can, locally, even not locally, and say, I will work for you for free for a period to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have to, go and work at Burger King to pay your bills or to get by. But I guarantee you, when you work with the best florist for 6 months, the amount of experience and real life knowledge you learn will outweigh, and the fact you're not even paying for your degree either at this point, will outweigh anything you learn at university. There's a massive, massive opportunity cost by going to university. And it's direct and indirect cost of that. So time being an indirect cost. And secondly, you're foregoing experience, real life experience, which in my opinion trumps anything. Even doctors, right? They have to have the medical degree, but they'll all tell you, my wife's a doctor, she did a medical degree, she did 2 degrees. we got a big student debt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm paying that off myself. So we know what it can do, and I know what it's like. But until she got to the hospital, started working as a doctor, she didn't realise what it's real life experience is way more helpful. And even as an employer like myself, I'll always pick someone who's, if it comes between someone who's got a degree and someone who's got real life experience, 9 times out of 10 I'll pick the guy who's got the real life experience, depending on obviously other factors, but every time.
I think that's the same for a lot of places now.
So why would you go to university?
I think degrees.
You have to ask that. Why? Why would you go to university?
So for you say time is your most, like, you really value time.
Yes.
You went to university. So would you say that you regret going?
Yes. Like I said, if I could go back.
Yeah, but you fully regret.
I don't fully regret it.
Yeah.
The reason being, it taught me. It's very difficult to comment on it unless you've actually done it, right? So I'm actually in a position where I can bash it a little bit because I've actually been through it and done it. Like everything I learned, pretty much 90% of it was complete rubbish.
Do you think you could have done where you are at now?
I'd be way further if I didn't go to university.
Okay.
I'd be way further ahead if I didn't go to university. But it's now given me the ability to help other people maybe think these things through before taking that on board or doing that. Yeah. I ran companies. I had 2 companies while I was at university. And I managed to do it, so you can do that if that's something. If you really want to go to university, I would still advocate. Trust me, depending on the degree you're doing, like economics is a pretty heavy degree. Yeah. There's still enough time you could even do part-time work for something that, let's say you were trying to build up your experience in another field, and that's where you thought you might want to go. Do your degree and then work for free for someone else. Work harder. You have to sacrifice if you really want it. The thing is, most people get pressured into it by their parents. Yeah. This is the biggest problem.
I think, the generation, like our parents' generation, it's quite a big thing for them, for their kids, to get a degree.
But our parents' generation, the generation above us, had it easy. It was post-Second World War. Our grandparents had it hard. There was no jobs. Our parents, like the kind of 40 to 60-year-olds now, had it easy, relatively speaking. There was an abundance of jobs. The economy was absolutely flying. You got a degree, you definitely had a job. Like you walked into one and life has changed. Like I said, education is obsolete. It doesn't work like that anymore, and people need to be very wary of that before they go marching into something that's going to cost them a fortune. I mean, let me ask you this, right? Let's say your degree is going to cost you, I don't know, what's the average degree nowadays? 40 grand, something like that, depending on how much you get of extra loan, right? 40 grand. Let's just say, if it was any other decision in your life, and someone was like, right, you need to pay 40 grand to learn this information, you'd think, I need to think about this. Like, how much value am I getting from it, right?
Something you're trying to build yourself,
or how much value am I getting from that 40 grand, right? Of course you'd ask that. But when it comes to university, we don't worry about that because it's a student loan. It's not only 40 grand; it's 40 grand plus interest. So it's a lot more than that, which is way higher than inflation. So your debt actually goes up and up and up, and the more you earn, the more they tax you as well. The more they put interest on.
Something happy about it.
But I will say though, before you go flying into, okay, I've listened to Elliot's video, I'm motivated now, I'm going to start my own business because I'm going to go and fulfill my passion. Great, that's great, I'm an advocate of that. Yeah. If you message in, I'll help you where I can, I'll put you on the right path. But just because you love it doesn't mean it's monetizable. You might have to do something or edit what you want to do to actually and maybe do some things that you don't want to do. Like I still do things in my business that I don't want to do. That's part of the parcel. Majority of stuff I love, but you need to think about how much value by doing this particular job am I going to add to people's lives. The amount of money you make is directly proportional to the size of the problem you solve for people. For example, if I solve cancer tomorrow, I would be a trillionaire overnight. Because it's a massive problem, a huge demand, right? So that's a big problem, big solution, big payment, right? Amazon, he fulfills, I think 60% of every pound spent in America is spent on Amazon, right? So he's fulfilled a problem. People want goods fast, they want to have a good returns policy, they want to trust the seller. Okay, Amazon, big payment, right?
Yeah.
Jake is a videographer. He helps businesses and helps me help businesses sell more stuff so that they can provide for their families, they can have a nicer lifestyle. He's solving a big problem. We get paid more. If you are trying to go down a route where you're doing something just because you love it, like maybe go back to
flower arranging or something like that because you have a passion for colours right? Yeah, it's your passion. Is it adding much value to people's lives? So you need to actually think before you go gung-ho into something. It might actually be best just to take a year out.
Yeah.
Try some different things, dabble with some things. It may still be you go back to university, but just need to
time to think, see what life's like.
Yeah. And do some pro bono work for people for free. See if you like those things.
That's big. I think that's important.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to cover?
I think there's a certain element, I think, of people my age are scared to not go to university and do something else. I think that's probably a big reason why they don't go. Don't know if that's anything. I think like, so Hannah, my girlfriend, says like, how am I going to get a job that pays above £6.50 an hour if I don't?
Right, so straight away we've just covered that already.
Yeah.
So
there's just a certain element of
people are
being
scared
to not like risk that. It's almost like it seems
where's
still
the risk?
Seen as risk, exactly.
Where is
That's
the risk?
Still seen as quite like a not going to university. What am I going to do? That's exactly the same thing you could throw.
You're worried about building a job, right, that's going to pay you more than £6.50 an hour, but you don't worry about the 40-50k in debt plus interest that you're going to accrue before you even got a job, right? You're taking a 50 grand debt before you've even secured a job.
Yeah.
Yet you're worried about going to earn £6.50, right?
Yeah. That's it.
You've got to back yourself, add value. Like I keep saying, if you can find things where you add value, go work for people for free that are in a position, that are earning good money, that are doing everything that you want to do. Learn from them, get in their good books, and build yourself as a person. Personal development, right? You don't get much personal development other than going out and getting pissed up and good for social skills, don't get me wrong. But you can do that outside of university. You don't have to pay 50 grand for it.
Yeah, also because you networked quite well in university. Was it university?
You said you did a little bit.
Yeah, I mean you got a little benefits.
I've done a lot more out of university. I didn't have to pay that money for that, right?
Yeah. Okay.
If I'm in a position where I'm running a good business and you can network anywhere now. I've got an app called Meetup on my phone, and I've signed up to local businesses and that I'm in the area that I'm in, and then I can sign up and go to those and network and meet people. I'll meet a damn sight more people because I can filter through the ones that I want to go to than I would do at university. And I don't have to pay for it, it's free.
Yeah.
So...
No 40 grand.
40 grand,